Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I have both of my meditation books here that I have chosen for today, which are the Melody Beatty books. I think people know by now that these are like my favorite books. Do you know, Tucker? He said, I know, Dad. He said, are we reading meditations? We're reading meditations today. Let's get right into the first one, which is Journey to the Heart by Melody Beatty. It is September 22nd. Let's see what it has to say. I pulled it right open to September 20th. September 22nd. Let me put my reading glasses on today. Make it a little bit easier for me. September 22nd, embrace change. Oh, this is so interesting. I've been talking so much about this today. September 22nd, embrace change. You don't have to fear change. What you need to fear, a friend once told me, is things remaining the same. When that happens, life has stopped. Life is an evolution. Your life is constantly, quietly evolving each moment into something new, something different, something that adds gracefully, beautifully, and perfectly to what was. You can trust that process with all its insights, clarity, confusion, and emotions. You can trust that process with its peace, joy, laughter, and its side trips. Learn to honor and love the process of continual evolution and transformation. It's hard. It's how things grow. It's how you grow. It's how life is. Learn to embrace change. I love that sentence. Learn to honor and love the process of continual evolution and transformation. Or learn to honor the love of... Learn to honor and love the process of continual evolution and transformation. I love that sentence. You know, much of my life, I said, I don't like change. That was kind of like my go-to statement, I would always say. And I think that many people, addicts and alcoholics, in recovery and out of recovery, don't like change. I think we're, creatures of comfort, and we know what we like, and we, like to keep things the same, the house the same, and, not move, and not go here, not go there. And I think to some degree, for those of us that are, grew up as children of alcoholics or addicts, I think, or grew up in toxic homes, period, change, I think, equals toxicity. Change equals the unknown. And so, we like to keep things the same, I think often, or at least I do. I like to keep things the same because it's a sense of comfort. It's a sense of stability for me. It's a sense of, safety for me. And safety is a word that is very, very important for me. When I think about, not just feeling safe, in my home with the doors locked and things like that, but just, in my life, when it comes to finances and things like that and, relationships in my life. It's just safety is a word that's important to me. And I look back on my life and I think about the fact that I never, really knew what I was walking into. I say that a lot, but I would say that, 60 to 80% of the time I knew what I was going to walk into in the afternoon. But it was the blindsided Tuesday afternoon that I would walk in, and my mom had been drinking a lot. That kind of threw me off, that I didn't know, what I was dealing with. And so those were always really hard days for me. Those were really scary days for me. I think the way that I kept norm, with all of that, or the way that I kept a safe place, we talk about safe places, was my bedroom. And I look back on when I was a little kid and I had all of these stuffed animals and I would have them lined up around my bed. And they each had names, and they each had storylines, and their storylines never changed, And, but I do look back on that, and I think, they always have these very tragic, drastic stories, Steve, Blue Dog, had been, orphaned by his parents at birth, and I had to take care of him. It was always kind of that kind of story, And, it was always these poor stuffed animals that had come to me for me to take care of. They needed me. They relied on me. I look back on that, and trust me, I've done evaluation and inventory on that. I know why that exists in my life. But I think that's very interesting, that as a child, I was creating these stories for these animals. And then I had these bunk beds, and the whole top bunk was just filled with stuffed animals. But the bottom bunk, I had my favorite... in all honesty, I mean this too, 20 or 30 stuffed animals that would just line the edges of the bunk bed, right? And I would say goodnight to each of them, and I would kiss them goodnight. It was very, when I look back on that, it's very ritualistic of what parents did. And I would do that with my stuffed animals. Now, and I'm not talking about when I was 14, I'm talking about when I was 6, But with my mom, like, when she would put me to bed at night, like, she would be part of that too. But then on the nights that she wasn't, because she had been drinking a lot or she had passed out or gone to sleep, like, I would do those things myself, I would still go through those rituals. I think that's probably something I've never talked about on video, actually. It's interesting. I don't know why I haven't talked about that. I've heard a lot of other stories like that in the rooms of recovery, but I would be interested to know if there are people out there that hear that as well. So, or have lived that as well. So I'm not somebody that loves change. I through the year, well, I should say, I'm not somebody that loved change. And, it's interesting because I can remember when I was working in treatment, my supervisor called me in one day, and she knew I was not somebody that loved change. And, but there's a lot of strength that comes from people keeping things the same as well, and carrying on traditions and rituals. Like, there's a lot of strength to be seen in that as well. And so that was something that she saw as a positive in me. But she was changing some programming, and she said to me, she pulled me into her office, and she said, "Can you close the door?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Okay, we're changing this programming." And I said, "Okay." And she said, it was like some different groups we were going to run. And she said, "I need you to go along with it, and I need you to be supportive of these changes because these changes need to occur." Because I was like the next person underneath her, right? And she said, "Everybody's going to look to you to see like how you respond. And if you're resistant to this, then everybody's going to kind of like in line be resistant to that." And I was like, "Okay, well, what are the program changes?" And she told me, and it was like literally like a complete like schedule change. Like, we were changing like the nights that we were doing family groups and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, "I'm not doing this." Like, I mean, in her office, I was like, "This is ridiculous. There's no reason for us to do this." She was like, "This is what, like we've decided. This is like, best practices, things like that." And I was like, "Okay." She goes, "Peter, I'm asking you not to like be resistant to this. Just go with it." She goes, "You'll see that it's like, that this is really great that we're doing it this way, right?" So we ended up changing it, and like inside, like I was like, "This is stupid. There's no reason for us to do this. My whole schedule's been thrown off. Now I have to change my personal life," all that kind of stuff that we all complain about, right? I look back, and those were my favorite, those things that it changed into were my favorite pieces of ever working in a treatment program, period, end of story, Had I been resistant to that and not been willing to do that, I would have missed out on so much that, my supervisor knew was like, whatever. Sometimes people know what's best for us, and we don't know that at the time, Things that my sponsor has suggested to me that at the time I'm like, I'm not really about all this. And she's like, "Will you at least be open to the option of thinking about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be open to it." And then I do it. And I'm like, "Okay, wow, Today, I still don't love change. I don't love it, right? But I try to embrace it, and I try to be open to it, because I realize that the more, like, I just try to float with the river of life. I really do. When people suggest things to me, I just go. Like yesterday, we started for like my friends. If you've watched my vlog, you'll know that there's like 6 or 8 of us, and we did this like literature like Zoom call that started during the COVID on Monday nights. Well, it ended because we stopped reading. We finished reading the book that we were reading, so we got a new group together, which is basically like the same core people plus a couple new ones. And so it started last night. Well, my good Judy Tanya, she called me, and our sponsor's in it too. Tanya and I have the same sponsor, and she said, "We haven't always. That just happened in the last 2 years." So anyway, we're sponsee sisters. Can you believe it? Anyway, so she called me and she said, "Do you want to go over to our sponsor's house and we can all sit outside and we can do it like on a phone outside?" And because it's just like, reading literature, and like you call the next person and you pass and you share. It's like, it's not like a meeting. It's just like, it's not a meeting. It's not, all that kind of stuff, a regulated meeting. It's just a getting together of, people reading literature. And I said, "Sure." But like 5 years ago, I would have been like, "Oh, I don't know if I can get this done in time, if I can do that, blah, blah, blah." I would have been so resistant to it. And I was just like, because I already had it figured out. I was going to set up over here. I was going to make a cup of coffee or have, like whatever, LaCroix, and I was going to be ready to go. And I was like, "No, let's go do it. This will be fun." And we did. And my sponsor, she made this plate of fruit and cream puffs, and she had peanuts out there or cashews or something. And it just was, and she made a cappuccino for me, and we sat outside, and it was a beautiful fall evening, and it was so fun. And what I would have missed had I challenged that change, And I think about that a lot. This condo, although I still have a lot of artwork up, that was my mother's because I love this artwork and I will keep it forever. The condo looks completely different than it did when my mom lived here. And in fact, our couch is over here. I think many of you know okay? And the couch used to be right over there, facing the fireplace. And then there's a chair over there, but like everything is completely different. And I came in one day and Alex and his mom were in here. And this was like after we had the carpet taken out and we put wood floors in. And so he wanted to change everything. And he was like, do you care if I change it? I was like, no. But I didn't really think it would be that drastic of a change. Or maybe it was before we got the carpet changed. No, because the table that's over there that I work on used to be right here. The dining room table. And I said, no, sure, go ahead, change it. And I came in and I was like, I literally felt like all the air leave the room because they had changed. Literally, the furniture was like completely different. I was like, did you ever go through that, you know? Today, I can't imagine it any other way. Now he wants to change it again. And I'm like, no, I like it how it is. Can't we just leave it how it is? But anyway, I think change is good, you know? And like, change is hard. Change is hard to get used to, especially when you get comfortable doing the same thing over and over and over again, you know? When we first met, I was completely resistant to the idea of like getting a place in Florida and moving down there. And today I can't wait, you know? And that's a journey that we're getting ready to start on, you know? And I'm really, really excited about that. We've been waiting for a couple years now. It's finally coming to fruition. And I'm like really ready to like have a new thing in my life, you know? I also think that as you get older, change is something that is easier to accept because you realize, you know what, I'm not going to be here forever and I want to enjoy some new things and some different things. A piece of advice I would give somebody if I were younger is, I wish I had been more open to it when I was younger. I had friends of mine that backpacked through Europe and traveled around the world, you know, and did this and did that and moved to different cities, and I just didn't. And that was all based in fear. My not liking change was based in fear of what change would represent or what that would look like, and I didn't know the outcome. I didn't know what it would look like after the change occurred, so I didn't want to do it, you know? Very similar to me letting my hair grow out white, you know? My hair turned white. My hair started turning white and gray when I was 23. And by the time I got married, when I was 40, when the time I got married, 39, I was 39. Was I 39 or 40? It had started, you know, like really like taking effect on the color. And I can remember I had a conversation with my dad when I got back because during our honeymoon, I let my beard grow out. Well, my beard was white, my hair was brown, and it looked foolish. And I came back, and it's just so funny because my dad's a plastic surgeon, but he's like never had anything done. And he's just like, you know, oh, natural. And we were sitting outside, and I was talking to him, and I said, he calls me Pete. And I said, Dad, I don't know what to do about my hair, whatever. And he goes, Pete, just let it go. He goes, just stop fighting it. He goes, just let it go. Just let it go white, you know? And I just kind of surrendered and gave in to the change. And I've never looked back, you know? I've never once thought, like, God, I wish I had kept my hair brown. Yes, it made me look younger, but I don't really care. And I've learned to accept it and love that part about myself. So sometimes you have to just surrender and float into the change, you know? Anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.